When Spartacus premiered, epic cinema found a new benchmark. 65 years on, its sheer scale and beauty still remind us what movies can achieve. Stick around because when it comes to visuals, Spartacus is in a league of its own. Puts anything CGI and AI to shame. Let's start with visual presence. Spartacus has more detail and bite than a typical movie shot on 35mm film stock. That's because it was shot in Super Technorama 70, a negative that's over twice the size of CinemaScope. Why choose that? In the late 1950s, roadshow formats were marketed as must-see spectacles that filled giant, curved screens. Each studio tried a competing system, and Universal's answer was Super Technorama 70. The process ran a horizontal VistaVision frame on 35mm film stock, squeezed 1.5 times with an anamorphic lens, then optically blown up and printed to 65mm film for a stunning 2.25 to 1 image after restoration. All that backed by 6-track sound. The look is different too. Spartacus is one of the rare films where director Stanley Kubrick leaned on super telephoto lenses to flatten space. Cinematographer Russell Meddy, with whom Kubrick often clashed, used Cooke telepancros from 100 to 406mm behind a Technorama anamorphic adapter. Visually, the film is definitely not in the style one normally associates with Kubrick. He later came to be known for wide angles and long zoom shots, but the crane moves in Spartacus lend it an expansive sweep that is unmistakably Meddy's. After all, he's the one responsible for executing that famous opening scene shot in Touch of Evil. Meddy had a Chapman crane with a custom 35-foot arm that carried both camera and big lamp heads when required. When they needed to get real high, they built 100-foot towers to perch on. Whenever they disagreed, Meddy held his ground and won an Oscar. Kubrick never got over that. The entire Technorama filming system cost a small fortune in lab work because Stanley Kubrick had his actors sometimes repeat the same lines 40 or 50 times. A typical director would have his actors stop at 4 or 5 takes. But ever since Paths of Glory, Kubrick realized if the actors are thinking about words, they can't reach the emotion required. So he kept shooting until the performances were to his satisfaction. At the time of Spartacus, Kubrick didn't have complete creative control, but he had the support of leading actor and producer Kirk Douglas, who worked with him on Paths of Glory. Kubrick came aboard after Douglas fired the original director Anthony Mann. The quarry scenes at the beginning are scenes Mann shot. At the time, Kubrick was only 30 years old, and even though he was Douglas's choice, not all of his decisions were accepted by Douglas. But no matter what, the film is an incredible visual treat, especially the scenes with armies of extras all directed to perfection. The stunts are breathtaking to see, and you feel you're actually watching an army march and fight. How many films can claim this without CGI? What's really fascinating is most of Spartacus was filmed on Universal's backlot. Art director Alexander Golitzin spent half a year in blueprints and another half tearing down or redressing nearly every standing set. When the script needed open fields, the unit slipped out to the San Fernando Valley and Thousand Oaks, hiding distant freeway traffic behind carefully placed backdrops so California could pass for the Italian countryside. Douglas wanted to prove you could make grand epics without having to travel internationally, which was sort of the fad at the time. Even so, they had to shoot the climax in rural Spain. When a Roman legion forms a red crescent filling half the horizon, the grandeur is genuine, and you can feel the wind. The battle and aftermath scenes, which take only a few impressive minutes on screen, took 6 weeks to rehearse and 6 weeks to film. One thing you'll notice is the lighting is so different from Ben-Hur. It's impossible not to compare both movies because after Kirk Douglas was passed over for Ben-Hur, he resolved to make his own epic to rival it. Ben-Hur floods its sets with high-key front light to keep deep focus sharp. Spartacus feels almost contemporary by comparison. Russell Meddy lights with a soft key and often lets shadows fall to black, using little or no fill. He could afford the style because he used both Eastman 50T along with 25T stock, which was twice the film size Ben-Hur used. This combination gives Spartacus a smoother, more unified look that immediately sets it apart. The colors follow tradition from the time. Romans carry crimson, bronze, and silver. Slaves wear dust, mud, and faded blue. The clothes stand out just enough to draw the eye without breaking harmony. This discipline lets the viewer read a crowded frame in an instant, something many color film extravaganzas struggle to achieve. The other thing that sets Spartacus apart is the quality of the matte paintings made at Universal's matte painting department under the supervision of Russell Lawson. Mehdi was able to mask the seams with smoke, haze, or precise exposure techniques. Most of the trickery in Spartacus stays invisible, so the illusion of place remains unbroken. All this quiet mastery of hidden effects became part of Kubrick's toolbox. I really don't know if he could have made Barry Lyndon the way he did without his experience on Spartacus. Even though he disowned the film, he later did help supervise the restoration work, so we can see Spartacus in all its glory. The lighting in the close-ups are as breathtaking as the wides, and very realistic and flattering. Aside from the visuals, the other thing you definitely notice about Spartacus is the editing isn't afraid to push the envelope. You have long takes that build tension and a rapid frenzy of shots. The arena fight between Spartacus and the Nubian moves from tableau to visceral action in a heartbeat. You could be watching a prequel for Ridley Scott's Gladiator.
Those who are about to die salute you.
The dialogues are definitely not shy and only holds back enough to get past the censors, most notably the oysters and snails dialogue between Crassus and Antonius.
Not a question of models.
The script by Daltori Trumbo lets every character shine as if they're real humans. Some of the one-liners are glorious. My favorite actors from the film have to be Peter Ustinov and Gene Simmons. Ustinov steals every scene he's in, and he won an Oscar for his performance.
This sorry show gives me very little hope that you'll ever be a man.
Jean was rejected for the role initially, but Kubrick insisted on her when he took over the film. She makes you believe Spartacus would do anything for her. The scale of Spartacus is unimaginable. They spent 8 months on location, wrangled 6,000 extras, miles of tents, imported 40 horses, and enough dust to choke half of Andalusia. And the result is probably the most beautiful war movie ever photographed. Alex North's score is energetic, mournful, and epic, so seamlessly you get carried away by it without noticing why. You really cannot say you've seen them all until you've seen Spartacus. In hindsight, was Super Technorama 70 worth the trouble? On a phone screen you may not see the difference, but on a 4K TV or better yet, in a proper theater, the clarity remains astonishing. The images have a pop and splendor you can't unsee. The industry's retreat from large format cinema has left few venues that can recreate the original roadshow impact. Yet whenever a 70mm print surfaces, audiences are reminded how immersive film can be. Could the same experience be recreated today on a similar budget? Computer-generated extras could replace thousands of Spanish soldiers, and LED stages might stand in for Andalusian hills, but something intangible will be lost. The real dust in the air, the energy of standing among thousands of men in costume, and the sunlight bouncing off genuine bronze. Eventually, a question everyone asks is, how much of Spartacus is Kubrick? Not much according to him, but the person he had to please though was Kirk Douglas. Later, Douglas called Kubrick brilliant in his book. He didn't think highly of him personally, but Kubrick's talent was undeniable. That's all we need to know about that. So why does Spartacus still look like $1 trillion? Because a team of collaborators, Douglas, Mehdi, and Kubrick, all had huge points to make. I bet you thought I was going to say ego. They made their huge points without any half measures. Even when the shoot went above schedule, Douglas held firm. Kubrick was demanding, and Mehdi was his match. Spartacus feels both monumental and immediate, like a personal film, a very rare achievement. So let Alex North's overture fill your living room and watch the Roman legions march in surround sound. When the credits roll, you may find yourself wanting to watch another film, so watch my film A Count of 10 on Amazon Prime, Tubi, or CPix. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.